Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I'm late. So today's been an interesting day. We were given a time and a schedule to go and sort out our private healthcare because at the moment, without having lived in Spain for that long, and in order to get medical treatment, should I need it or Justin need it, then we need to get private healthcare. And it took longer than we anticipated. And then the drive back took longer than anticipated, etc., etc. So first of all, deep apologies, and hopefully we'll be back to normal schedule next week. So today, I had planned to talk about thoughts and feelings, and that may come up, but I had a reminder by Facebook this morning that one of my today's thoughts that came up was around being in the calm at the eye of the storm. And I had a bit of a dialogue with my good colleague and Three Principles guru, Miss Lucy Sheffield, who's watching today. So hi, Lucy. And I thought it was an interesting point that my today's thought 12 months ago came up with, which was around the calm at the eye of the storm. I don't know whether you've seen images on weather forecasts of actual storms, the big massive things that, the hurricane type things that hit the States and hit Southeast Asia predominantly. And they have this like almost oval type shape as they swirl around. But the chaos is around the outside of the storm. But right in the middle, right smack bang in the middle, there's almost like nothing. And you'll hear people talking, I've heard people talking in the States predominantly around this almost eerie silence, because where they're living or where they are is sat right smack bang middle of the storm. And they're almost like waiting on the extremities or the outside of the storm to catch up with them, and when the storm moves through, that's when the chaos starts. But I had some further thinking around what this all meant for people like you and I, the human beings, or the beings that are on this planet, whether we're spiritual beings having a human experience or however you want to see it. It's more about, for me, how you are. So whether you've been in a discussion, heated or otherwise, with friend, colleague, partner, whoever, or whether you're caught up in your own thinking, because you can create your own storm. I can create my own storm, let's put it that way. I shan't cast aspersions on anybody that's watching this, but I can create my own storm. And it's not until I stop the chaos and the spinning around of the thoughts that I can see what's actually going on. But you can actually be in the middle of a heated argument, a heated discussion, and still be really, really calm and really, really present. You don't have to be in a serene, calm state externally. You can still be having a dialogue with whoever it is that you're having the discussion with, heated or otherwise, but still be completely present, completely calm and at ease with where you're at. You don't have to be in the proverbial lotus position in order to experience calm. Now, one of the other favorite things I talk about is calm being your superpower. Because if you're in the middle of an argument or a discussion, heated or otherwise, and you don't rise to the argument or get caught up in somebody else's story, That's deeply powerful because it almost catches the other person on the back foot. Because they're expecting you to join in with their party, their dialogue, their argument, their theory, their story, their whatever it is you want to call it. But you don't have to. You don't have to join every argument that you're invited to. You don't have to get embroiled in or caught out by somebody else's thinking. You can still be as present and as in the moment as you see fit. So that's where I was going this morning when I was having this interesting conversation via Messenger or via Facebook with Lucy. So how would this show up for somebody in a health crisis, for example? Because here I'm talking about taking the fear out of cancer. Now, I recall when I was given the diagnosis, it did feel like I was in the eye of the storm. Because I was dead calm. I was okay with it. I was just fine with what the medics were telling me. It was the people on the periphery that were getting caught up in their thinking. The people I work with, the HR team, for example, the family members who at the time were 500 miles away, the friends and colleagues around me who didn't know how to be or were feeling, why would it happen to Maureen? And I didn't have any of that. I had none of that thinking. And that might sound a bit, oh, I'd gone into la la land, but I didn't. I was clearly present with what they had told me. I just didn't feel the need to go into chaotic thinking or fearful thinking or anxious thinking, because that, well, A, it would never have served me, but B, it just didn't cross my mind. So I can see that when anybody else gets a major diagnosis, not necessarily cancer, but any diagnosis, that their thinking will get all caught up, that in essence, they're creating their own storm. And by them being all caught up in their thinking, that almost spreads outward to those around them. And it's picked up by them, and then that's further exacerbated, and it just gets bigger and bigger, almost like the snowball flowing down the hill. It might start off really, really small, but by the time it's got to the bottom, it's massive because it's picked up all of this energy, this force, and all the other bits of snow around it. And it just swirls around. And there's no need for any of that. So what does this say? It just says that some of us are more connected with where our thinking is coming from than others. Now, the principles are in action for all 7 billion people on the planet, whether they realize it or not. And some people are aware of it and have language around it, people that have been given some training or some understanding. But the majority of the people on the planet have no idea what on earth the 3 principles are, whatever mind, thought, and consciousness are. And to be fair, you don't need to. You really don't need to. But when you get that feeling, that internal dialogue, that internal sense of peace and calm, whether you want to put labels and words and language around it is irrelevant. And to be fair, anybody listening to this that is involved in the principles will know that once you put language onto something that actually doesn't exist because it's formless, you've lost it anyway. You've lost it anyway. So if you find yourself in a really difficult situation, I invite you to Bring yourself back to the eye of the storm. If you can do such a thing. You might find yourself there automatically anyway, and that would be amazing. You don't have to join every argument that you're invited to, and you certainly don't have to create your own arguments for yourself, whether that's in a health situation or not. So I know that I get caught out by my own thinking, just as the majority of people do. So I can have a raging argument going on in my head about all sorts of things. I see my good friend Elaine Helides is here. So food is one of my big arguments, things that's occurring. Should I eat this? Should I take that? Should I follow this path? Who should I listen to? Should I get this book? Should I follow that plan? And Elaine's probably laughing her head off at me now. But I had all of this going on in my mind. And yet, like the snow globe that you see at Christmas, if I stop bloody shaking it just for a minute, the snow will fall to the bottom, and a level of clarity may occur. And that's what I invite you to consider. That even if you're creating your own argument, if you catch yourself in the middle of it, just stop. Stop for a minute. Breathe. Get a different perspective. Gain some clarity. Have calm as your superpower in your back pocket. And you'll be just fine. So like I say, I'm sorry I'm late to the party today. Getting things like private health insurance here in Spain took a little bit longer than planned. But I made it in the end. No need to get caught up in my thinking. I thank each and every one of you who's turned up today, Lucy, David, Elaine, and anybody else that I can't see your names. It's been a delight. So until next week, I hope to be back at the normal time next week of 1 p.m. UK Friday. And in the meantime, have an amazing weekend and keep calm. Carry on. Bye for now.